I'll never forget. It was an essential tremor patient with a severe tremor, and within minutes of being inside the MRI machine and being treated, being able to put their hand up with essentially no tremor, that was when I was like, okay, this is something real.
Welcome to Curing with Sound, a podcast presented by the Focused Ultrasound Foundation. I'm your host, Allison Preston Smith. Today's episode highlights another member of the Focused Ultrasound team, Dr. Lauren Powlovich. Lauren is the Associate Director of the Research and Education team and has been with the foundation since 2019. She brings together key stakeholders and leads initiatives in the advancement of focused ultrasound for several applications, including glioblastoma, pediatrics, pain management, and sonodynamic therapy. She holds a bachelor's degree in biology and a doctor of medicine from the University of Vermont. Lauren also has an executive MBA from the University of Virginia Darden School of Business. Welcome to the podcast, Lauren.
Thank you, Allison. Thanks for having me today.
So tell us how you first became interested in the medical field. Did it start out with an interest as a child or later on in life?
Yeah, so it started out as an interest very early on in my life. My mom comes from a family of 5 children, 4 of whom are women, and they are all nurses. And so I was exposed to the medical field very early on in life. She held a number of positions as I was growing up in nursing, some of those which we as children attended with her job. So she gave medications to the disabled population as a side job at night, and she would often bring us with her. And so I saw from a very early age, her career in nursing. And she was always very enthusiastic about it and just loved her job in the healthcare field. And so I knew that I was interested in a career in healthcare. And so I went to the University of Vermont for undergrad, and I enrolled in a program called the Pre-Medical Enhancement Program. And that essentially meant that if I excelled and maintained a certain GPA with my biology degree, and also did well on the MCAT and shadowed physicians throughout my undergrad, that I would have an automatic admission into the University of Vermont's MD program. And so I got accepted into that pre-medical enhancement program, and it was pretty much, history from then on. I knew at a very young age that I was going to be a doctor, and I was very excited about that.
Was there any family pressure to follow a certain area or focus on a specific area, or did you try out a couple different classes and see what you were more interested in?
So, I will say that, coming from a long line of nurses, I expected my mom and her side of the family to really encourage me to pursue nursing, and then maybe just get an advanced nursing degree once I had done that. But to my surprise, she actually urged and encouraged me to, sort of go the distance and be the first doctor in the family. So I decided to pursue a field which would allow me to work in critical care. So you basically have 2 options. One is through internal medicine and one is through anesthesia. So then I went and sort of viewed my options and spent some time in both. And when I did my anesthesiology rotation, I realized it was the perfect fit for me in terms of a mix of patient cases and also the critical nature of the job. So some patients were really sick, some patients were perfectly healthy. There was a nice balance there. And I tended to thrive in sort of those high pressure environments. So that's why I ended up choosing anesthesia.
And so you practiced anesthesiology for several years before joining the foundation. So what is it that drew you to this experience and that brought you here?
Yeah, it was a bit of an interesting journey to get me here. But I experienced some health issues while in my final year of anesthesiology residency. So I ended up taking some time off before working clinically after residency. And I needed that time to just sort of readjust and figure out my priorities. And in the time with which I was trying to do that, I was approached by Neil, Dr. Cassell, through a mutual friend. And he knew that I was taking some time off to consider my next steps clinically. And so he offered me a position, a very temporary position at the foundation during that time with which I was trying to figure out my next steps. And that temporary position ended up turning into a much more permanent one, as I've now been here for 5 years, which I can't even believe it's been that long. But when I look back at my growth over the years that I've been here, it does make sense. And what I can say is that as I began to work here and really understand the mission, get to know some of my fellow employees, and learn more about the technology and its potential, I realized that the impact that I could have through this job could potentially be much greater than the impact I would have on humanity if I were to take care of, 2 patients per day for 30 years as an anesthesiologist. And so that to me was a huge reason why I decided to continue to work here. And I've really enjoyed myself. I've been able to grow in many ways, both professionally and, personally. And I'm really grateful that I found this opportunity when I did.
And when did you first hear about Focused Ultrasound technology? Was that while you were in residency or when you heard about the foundation for the first time?
Yeah. So at the University of Virginia, there is a Focused Ultrasound Center, and it's the small building that lives outside of the actual hospital. It's essentially a trailer that houses the MRI machine and the focused ultrasound machine that's used for brain treatments. And I always wondered what it was. And so when Neil approached me and I started to learn more about what he does here before I accepted the position, I was shocked to understand that that's what was going on in that building. And then I saw my first treatment there for the first time once I was employed here. I'll never forget. It was an essential tremor patient with a severe tremor. And within minutes of being inside the MRI machine and being treated, being able to put their hand up with essentially no tremor, that was when I was like, okay, this is something real. And seems like a little bit of rocket science, but definitely has a lot of potential. So it's really, really amazing and inspiring. And that day, that was part of when I really realized, okay, I think that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. So that was a fantastic day. But I didn't know much about focused ultrasound until working here. And it's been a great joy, honestly, truly getting to know a whole new field. I've loved doing it. I love reading, papers and books and things like that on the technology. And I made it my personal mission to become an expert, especially in the areas with which I lead programs here. And that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. Can you describe your role and how it's evolved and what it consists of now?
I started out doing mostly medical writing for the foundation before I was a full-time permanent employee. And then as I continued to learn more about the technology and contributed more to the team and just felt an urge to do more, that role evolved. I think my first role after the medical writing role, which only lasted honestly a couple of months, was directed more toward trying to establish a lung tumor program here at the foundation. But that never really took off, unfortunately. It's just really difficult to apply focused ultrasound to the lung. So that was sort of my first initiative outside of the medical writing. And then, things just continued to evolve. I became more involved in different things and led a couple of workshops, which spurred some greater interest in the brain tumor space. But I can tell you that on a daily basis, most of the things that I work with are co-leading the research and education team, which deals with all things related to science, both preclinically and clinically. And I have a large input in the research pipeline meetings. And so we review all of the preclinical and clinical proposals that come in and evaluate those critically, think of reviewers to send them out to, and then make funding decisions on those. And so very involved in that pipeline. And then the specific programs for which I'm sort of the project lead on are the neurodegenerative programs. So that includes Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, Huntington's, anything that relates to neurodegeneration within the nervous system. And what that looks like is essentially I keep track of an inventory of all of the projects that we have ongoing in that space, and then also initiate things like workshops and webinars to ensure collaboration amongst the scientific community, and of course, awareness and education as well. So there's the neurodegenerative one, and then similarly, I do something along the same lines with glioblastoma, DIPG, which is in the pediatric space, but we've really recently shifted more to focus particularly on DIPG as our main condition within the pediatric population that we have prioritized as an unmet clinical need. And then a couple of the smaller programs that you mentioned in the beginning that I direct are the sonodynamic therapy program and a couple of pain indications, which I also took an interest to given my background in anesthesia, because part of anesthesia involves pain management.
Mm-hmm. And some of the topics you're focusing on, we're seeing a lot of exciting research coming out. There's a lot on Alzheimer's right now and ALS and DIPG, like you mentioned. Is there anything that you're really excited for in the next couple of years, or that you've just seen incredible leaps and bounds made in research with any of these topics?
Yes, I am very excited about blood-brain barrier opening in general. So it has many different indications, but as a field in general, I feel like blood-brain barrier opening, whether you're using it to enhance the delivery of therapeutics, whether you're using it to enhance your own body's immune response to foreign substances or tumors, or whether it's to enhance the release of biomarkers into the blood through liquid biopsy. I just think that there is a massive potential with the fact that focused ultrasound can safely and temporarily open the blood-brain barrier. And I think we haven't even touched, the span of what that could look like. I mean, I think we've just reached the tip of the iceberg now in terms of defining how blood-brain barrier opening can revolutionize, medicine and the treatment of different brain conditions. And so I'm really, really excited to see how that field expands, not only scientifically, but technologically. There's a lot of these newer companies that are coming on the market that have much more accessible devices. And I think I'm really excited to see how that changes the space and the availability of these devices to different places within the hospital, not necessarily in an inpatient setting, say. So hopefully more outpatient accessibility of these devices that can provide blood-brain barrier opening for a number of different indications.
What are some of the main challenges with getting those devices out to hospitals? Is it just, price point or accessibility, or is it difficult for more remote hospitals or smaller organizations?
I think it's a combination of all of those things. So the devices themselves are very expensive, which is a huge barrier, but they have to be very expensive. Like some of these systems, especially the MRI guided ones, they require not only a very expensive focused ultrasound device, but a very expensive MRI machine. And so just the cost is a barrier. And then I think the other issue is definitely just the availability in general of these systems. So a lot of these companies are newer, just trying to get off the ground, may not have the best funding, definitely are not profitable yet. And so we're in this transition period where there's a lot of clinical interest, and, the manufacturers are, I think, doing the best that they can to increase the availability of these devices. But moving forward, I think that's going to be an area where once we start to see more clinical adoption, we're also going to need to see that same growth from a manufacturing perspective, and definitely from a cost perspective as well. So all of that, I'm confident, is in the works. And we know of a lot of companies who are providing devices, especially in the blood-brain barrier opening space, which are less costly, more convenient, and more accessible.
So you earned your MBA from the Darden School of Business at the University of Virginia. So what made you interested in merging your medical background and medical expertise with more of a business background?
That is a great question. Although I think I speak for a lot of physicians when I say that we inherently want more business exposure. It's just not something with, the rigorous nature of our coursework that time allows for. But so in my last year of my anesthesia residency, I was one of the chief residents. And so I had the great honor of sort of representing my class and attending many different meetings that were, like upper level management type meetings, and got to be a part of some really important decisions and initiatives that were happening at the departmental level and then much greater at the institutional level. And I really enjoyed that part of my job. And so I kind of knew from then on that I wanted to have some sort of leadership position at some point in my career. And in order to do that, it would probably made sense for me to have more of a business background. So I went back to business school a little bit earlier, I would say, than I expected to in my professional career. But very, very rewarding. And, like I said, I think ultimately the goal for me there was just to strengthen my leadership skills and also learn more about finance, because I knew very little about, just the financial world and business world, period, just because I'd been so focused on medicine and things like that. So it was a great, great experience for me professionally and personally, because I now know a little bit more about personal finance as well, which was very helpful.
And you've had a really unique opportunity to be surrounded by a group of inspiring and incredible women. Has that been just a constant throughout your career, or has that been really helpful for you in terms of, continuing forward with your goals and having people to look up to or being able to get advice from other women?
Yeah, I've always had a female mentor throughout my education and then throughout my career. So it started from when I was an undergrad. I worked with a woman in a biology lab, and she sort of encouraged and got me through that phase of my life. And then when I was in medical school, I had a couple of other female mentors that were physicians as well. And then residency, same thing. And I still am very close with one of my mentors from residency. And we meet and talk monthly, if not more frequently than that. And I think it is really important to be able to not only have, as a woman, a female mentor, to just be able to identify with some of the unique challenges that women face in the workforce, but also just as a friend, and somebody who is maybe potentially gone through similar circumstances. And I'm very grateful for that. And now for me, I am sort of becoming a mentor for others. And that is something that I very much enjoy as well. And it's being able to carry on and give back to the younger generation and provide some insight for them if I can.
And what would your advice be to the next generation of women in the medical field or, even in the business field too?
Yeah. So I would say for, women, especially young women who are either in the science or medical fields, that the ball is in your court. I would take every opportunity that you can to explore different avenues, different career avenues, and also just understand that in today's environment, that there is nothing stopping a woman from being in a position of authority or power. And there's really no better time to pursue that. So if it's something that you're interested in, go for the gold. I will also say that it's totally fine if you're not interested in that and you want to focus more on other priorities in your life. And that is something that I feel as a mother is really important to understand, is that you may feel this immense pressure to, outperform and succeed in everything that you do. But being a mom is a full-time job too. And it's one of the most important in my opinion to really nurture your family. So the other thing I learned in business school that I think is a real gem, and something that I say a lot, is that there's really no such thing as work-life balance, because balance would imply that, you work as much as you do life and you do life as much as you work. And that's never going to be the case. It's more of a work-life synergy. And whether or not, you can have a synergistic approach to both of those parts of your life.
And so how can listeners support the work you're doing at the foundation?
There's a lot of different ways. First and foremost, we run on donations. And so you could always visit our website and click the donate button in the right-hand corner. And that helps us to continue to do this important work that we do. We host a lot of webinars that are open to the public. So keep an eye on our newsletter, which you should also subscribe to if you aren't already, and try to attend some of those webinars just to learn more about the areas which are showing the greatest promise within focused ultrasound. You can always feel free to reach out to me through my email or my phone number. They're both posted on our website, and I'm happy to answer any questions about focused ultrasound or a career in medicine or the nonprofit world.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. We really appreciate you sharing about your career, and it's been so great talking to you.
Thank you. Likewise.
This episode of Curing with Sound has been presented by the Focused Ultrasound Foundation. If you would like to learn more about Focused Ultrasound or the Foundation, visit our website at fusfoundation.org. You can also sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media.